informed and maybe to have your mind changed. We're on 8 to 8:30 p.m. every other Thursday night here on WESU. Hope to hear you.
You're listening to 88.1 FM WESU Middletown, a community service of Wesleyan University. Up next is The Business Buzz with Jeff Sherman, taking a look at innovative and cool technology and businesses right here in Connecticut. Catch The Business Buzz each and every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. as part of our Monday through Friday 4 p.m. local talk block, only on 88.1 FM WESU Middletown.
The Business Buzz on WESU is proudly sponsored in part by Carlson and Demir, located right here in downtown Middletown. Carlson and Demir providing legal representation for victims of serious injury and for those facing criminal charges. On the web at carlsondemir.com, 860-819-1034.
And welcome to another edition of the Business Buzz. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman. We have Marty Keena in Studio B, as well as Chris Calandra. It's a open phone Friday. Whatever is on your mind, you can give us a call at 860-685-7700, 860-685-7700. I would believe that it's fair to say that at this point right now, Chris, I'll throw it out to you first, we're pretty much in a completely dysfunctional environment politically, correct?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's going to be fun to kick around because I think probably in the next hour we'll find very few people that we could actually say are doing a good job for the American people.
So let's take the list. Let's talk about a list of the most dysfunctional players in our government. So, Chris, why don't you start your list first, and we'll throw it out to Marty.
Well, this may surprise some of our listeners, but I'm going to pick Paul Ryan. I think
give the whole. No, that's great. No, that's fine.
Yeah?
I'm saying give 4 or 5, whatever. Yeah.
I'll give. We could just say all of them. No, I would say the Republicans in Congress are behaving so badly. They voted against Obamacare like 900 times when President Obama was in office, and then they get a Republican in office. They have the majority in both houses, and they can't get their act together.
I like that a lot because I think that's interesting. Because was it just a political BS move that they really was like you have like someone saying, I'm going to beat you up. Come on, step outside. I'm going to kill you. And then they step outside. You're like, well, there's really no problem.
Yes.
I mean, you're all boisterous and all, got your brass, what's on. And when it comes time, you just melt down.
Sure. And it's a lot like we would criticize. I know you've used this line of thought a lot with President Obama about being a community organizer. It's one thing about organizing people to complain about something, and it's a completely other thing to execute and get things done.
Very well done.
And so the Republicans seem to have been really good about saying Obamacare is broken, doesn't work, we don't like it, which I believe is true, but it's a wholly different matter to come up with something.
Did they really intend to? Was it just playing to the audience, or did they really intend to do it? Because if they really intended, how come they got caught flat-footed? There was nothing in the bailiwick, was it?
I think they're just a bunch of morons, and I think they're a little like the dog that chases the car and doesn't know what to do when they catch it. I don't think the Republicans were particularly malicious. I just think that they're a bunch of clowns in Congress.
And I think they're stratified because not only do you have your quote-unquote conservatives, which is the supposed base of Mr. Trump, but, there's the gang of this and the gang of that and the Freedom Coalition, and, there just seems to be too many special interests. And I know it's not something that is business-oriented, but there's so many factions that they can't seem to find a common cause, or if there's a common cause, they can't find a common pathway.
I don't think they want to find a common cause. That's the problem. I think things are so splintered up that they're playing to their base. I mean, Chuck Schumer, for instance, with the Supreme Court. Now he voted for him, and now all of a sudden he's going to filibuster. And it's on both sides, Marty. Yes, it is. Yep. But it seems like they're both they choose to be obstructionist just because it works for them being elected, not helping the country.
Sure. Don't you think, Marty, the Democrats decided, well, we're not going to support the Supreme Court nominee, and now we got to backtrack and figure out why we don't support
That's
him.
it's exactly it.
Right. It's more of a payback for how they were treated when they put their nominee.
That's
up,
right.
So.
And here's one of my. He might be the person I despise the most. John McCain, ready
Yeah.
for the dog track. Okay.
Yes.
A warmonger. Never have you ever heard of a war or a conflict that he did not like.
No, he likes to bomb.
He likes
things.
conflict. Everyone chastises Trump for why not get along with Russia. I'm not saying you have to kowtow to him, but why not get along with them? I mean, they're a nuclear power. I don't see a problem with that. But he stirs the pot all the time, and he also seems like he never got over losing in 2008, because now he's like almost a counterfoil to Trump. Like that's how he staked out who he is, and I don't know. I think he's one of Trump's arch nemesis.
And I think that it's because of the comment that he made about I like my heroes not to be captured. That certainly didn't help anything, and the fact that Mr. McCain is a lifelong Senate person.
Yes.
So he knows the rules. He knows the gentlemanliness of the whole thing, and I think he's seeing that the actual organization is being attacked, and he wants that senatorial.
But why shouldn't it be attacked?
Well,
because you have this thing of
because there's also decorum.
Okay.
There's a way in which you
so
govern.
the decorum has got us $20 trillion in debt, got us into three cluster whats of a war. It seems to me that decorum isn't really all that great.
Well, my counterpoint to Marty would be Senator Rand Paul said about John McCain just this week. He said that John McCain is a walking example of why we need term limits.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that is really, really spot on.
I think actually John McCain is a dangerous man. How does that sound? I think he just I've never seen him not want a conflict.
Right.
I mean, and he stirred up the things in the Ukraine. He was there trying to, get things going, ginned up there. I don't know what. He had his chance. Dude, you had your chance in 2008. What can I tell you?
Well, I think he was fighting for democracy in Ukraine because the Russians were actually trying to invade. I don't think he was promoting military action. I believe he was there to at least let the people know that someone of some stature in the United States was willing to stand with them for their mission, which was to become a democratic organization, a democratic country, and give people an opportunity. And I think most of Eastern Europe was looking for that. And we've lacked our leadership mantra in that region. And I think a lot of it has to do with certainly the last administration, and certainly it's been reinforced with this one.
See, I think we actually poked our finger in the eye of Russia from the fall of communism. They dismantled the Warsaw Pact. They were very gracious to us after 9/11. Putin was actually. He offered his air bases to us. We actually have done a lot to stir up Russia because we kind of said, we won, you didn't.
Yeah.
So we didn't work. We put things like Bush saying we want, weapons right on the doorstep in Poland. How would you like that if they put it in Mexico? I mean, so all these things did not help the relationship.
Yeah.
Putin is not a nice guy, but I also find faults with the Democrats that they're all brass knuckles about Russia. The very party that probably wouldn't invade New Orleans. I mean, it's a joke.
Well, Russia invaded Ukraine not during Donald Trump's administration, but rather during President Obama's administration.
People forget about
early
that, though.
in President Obama's administration. And we didn't hear much of a peep from the Democrats about reacting to the Russian invasion, which I don't necessarily think was wrong. I don't know if there's anything we could have done about the invasion in Ukraine, but now they're the opposite. They're just like the Republicans when they were kind of meek on Russia when they were in office, and now that they're out of office, they're feeling like the tough guy in the bar, using your example, Jeff.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. I think that, that is absolutely true. And I think this whole Russian thing with Trump is basically a strategy just to undermine his administration. But
Well, I think it's starting to be proven that his tweets about whether he was hacked or whether there was any collusion by the Russians into our political party, I think it's more than just military. I think there's been more of a cyber attack. I think there's more of an undermining of our democracy that we have to be aware of. He may not be putting his missiles on the border, but he certainly is putting his cyber people.
Well, every country does that.
But I'm not saying we don't, and that others. But it doesn't mean we can't, react to it and protect ourselves.
But the question on the table really is this preoccupation with Trump's Russia connection. I think is more political, Chris, than it has any meat or merit to it.
I think it's like a lot of things that go on in Washington. There is some smoke there, and it deserves to be talked about some. I don't know exactly what happened, but the Democrats are just going completely overboard with it, and that's really the only thing that they will talk about with any seriousness, and I think that's a mistake too. In the same way to say that there aren't any ties that might need to be looked into, it's just the Democrats are just completely overboard on it. I don't know how many.
Where
Americans
were they 4 years ago when you said Did you hear a lot of outrage of what Putin was doing with the Democrats, 4 years ago?
Correct. Even, Donald Trump said that stupid thing about a journalist in Russia was killed, and it's alleged that it was by the Russian government and Putin. And Donald Trump said something stupid about that.
What did he say?
But he said, well, we kill people too. But the reality is that happened years ago under President Obama's administration, and you didn't hear anybody talk about it then. I mean, and there's not really much you could do about what happens internally in the country. Lots of bad things happen all over the world.
Here's what bothers me about this Russian card is you don't know who you're playing with. It's not some third world country. I think sometimes you got to take a chill pill. That is, all these operatives, especially on the Democratic side, trying to pick a fight with Russia. Maybe not the best idea, especially when your military's depleted.
So, could we double back, because I was just perusing through the news, Marty and I here in Studio B, is the healthcare bill was pulled, so they didn't vote on it.
Yep, again.
So that means President Trump's first major policy legislative initiative was shot down. It was run by Paul Ryan. He was the point person on it. He looks terrible through this. The Democrats really didn't even participate in the process, which may or may not be all their fault. But what a complete mess. And how do we think that Congress is going to be able to get anything effective done on any front after this debacle, Jeff?
Well, that's what we're getting to, really, is I think dysfunctionality is rewarded now with our political system. So there's really no emphasis to cooperate at all. There's no reaching across the aisle. There hasn't been, let's be honest, with Obama, there wasn't any, impetus to do that. So I think we've become a completely dysfunctional government.
And I think a lot of that is because the Republicans couldn't muster the votes even within their own party.
Yeah.
So it's really not about crossing the aisle. It's a matter of even putting together a coalition in your own party. And, I'm not surprised by that. And
But in years past, you might, like say using the Republicans' power as an example, you might lose a handful of Republicans who don't like a particular bill, but you'd be able to pick up a handful of crossover.
Yeah, those days are over.
Now it's you got to get everybody on your side because you're going to get nobody in the opposition party, and that's completely unhealthy. It was unhealthy during President Obama's tenure, and it's going to be unhealthy if Donald Trump and the Republicans aren't able to peel away some Democrats. And it seemed like there were some, like there's a number of Democrats that are up in the Senate for election this time around that are in states that Trump won handily. A good example is Senator Manchin from West Virginia. Donald Trump won West Virginia by like 42 points. And Senator Manchin's a Democrat. You would think you might be able to do some business with him, but Congress is a mess. Maybe some callers have some thoughts on how displeased we are with our politicians in Washington.
And the fact that those
860
go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
685-7700, 860-685-7700. Is our political system broken? Is it beyond repair? I mean, it's not just a year thing or a 6 month scenario. It's been broken maybe back to the Bush administration, right? It probably started with that.
This true bully pulpit that Trump is operating under, I got to give the people who said no within the party a lot of credit for standing up for the fact that there actually could be avalanche, against them within their own party by the president, and that they stood up, and we'll see where that goes as far as the kinds of tweety reactions that he has in regards to those within his own party who didn't support him.
Yeah, I mean, probably of the three of us, I'm the biggest Donald Trump supporter, and listeners probably could sense that pretty easily. But it seems to me that Donald Trump completely misplayed the whole thing from the beginning by ceding everything to to Paul Ryan. It's exactly what a lot of people said President Obama did wrong with Obamacare, because President Obama really wasn't the architect of Obamacare.
Nope.
He let Congress handle it, and the leaders in his party in Congress handle it. And Donald Trump seems to have done the same thing, and it seems awfully familiar. But to Marty's point, this time the Republicans, or a certain percentage of them, kind of bucked the trend and didn't go along with it. But Donald Trump better learn quick that what he just did is not going to work when he gets to tax legislation, infrastructure spending, and all the other things he promised during his election. He ought to go back to going directly to the people, go above the representatives, talk to the people, rally support.
It seems to me that I agree with it, but it seems to me he's become a little tired.
Yeah.
He's lost some of his energy.
Yeah.
And I guess the quintessential question would be, when does his administration become in trouble? Chris first, then Marty.
I think right now.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're out of the gate now, President Obama out of the gate got a number of his signature legislations done, and I think he ran into trouble in a different way because he got them passed, but they really weren't what the American people wanted, and they didn't really work as well as advertised, which led to some difficulties for him. This is a completely different animal. This is his primary first legislative initiative, and it got blown up. And it didn't even get blown up by the Democrats. It got blown up by not being able to be cohesive on the Republican side. And Donald Trump, he tried to rally the politicians to the bill, but he really didn't go to the people. I'm a news junkie. I watch news all the time, Jeff. I don't really know what the heck the bill is even about, really.
Yeah, just repeal and replace, and some people called it Obama Light, and some people called it something else, but what the hell's in it, right?
But what's the theme? Like with Obamacare, whether you liked it or didn't like it, you could name a few of the major thrusts of what that legislation was going to do.
I think the major thrusts that were focused upon were the fact that the number of people that were not going to be covered and the expenses that were going to be forced upon actually a number of the people that were supportive of Trump in his base, they were the ones that were going to be suffering, whereas the more powerful and wealthy were the ones that were going to be able to benefit. So it really did not meet the needs of the people that he was trying to protect.
Yeah, I mean, so what would the Republicans, like, say, Paul Ryan, who's for the bill, what would he say? What would be the tagline on why this was good legislation? There is no... there must be positive elements in it. I'm sure it's not awful from start to finish.
Right.
But I haven't even heard a reason why it's good other than it's not Obamacare. And I was going to say a swear word about Paul Ryan saying, "Hey, you have to do this. It's this or nothing."
Right,
I
that's
cannot stand him.
Why do you not?
And I
why
hope
do you
he's
not
toppled.
like Paul Ryan? No, I'm not being confrontational. I just don't know why. What about him do you dislike so much? Seriously, I don't know. Because I don't know that much about him. To be
He
honest.
strikes me as very disingenuous, and he's got these very good looks. I'm okay with my own masculinity to say that. I mean, he's a handsome guy. He's an articulate guy. He seems likable enough, but I don't think... I think he's like you picture a lot of politicians. He'll say something to your face, and then he'll go in his office and do the complete opposite of what he just told you. I believe he's a liar. I believe he's disingenuous. And I think he's an elitist in the same way I often complain about Democrats being an elitist. I think he's a smug elitist, and I think he's the wrong leader for the Republican Party, especially with Donald Trump in office. I
like that part.
Yeah.
Especially with Donald Trump. It's like two
different personalities.
It's not the same.
Right.
And is Paul Ryan in trouble now?
I think it's too early to tell, but I hope so.
Okay, who would replace him? The tough question.
I don't know the hierarchy there.
I have no idea. I don't really know. But I didn't. We didn't like John Boehner. I think all three of us did.
Right.
And so I was glad to see him go. And I wasn't happy about Paul Ryan from the beginning for exactly the reasons that I just stated. And I think this is a good example of it. He's in charge now. Just like Donald Trump's going to take some incoming fire for not getting the legislation done. Paul Ryan became the speaker. He is now the speaker under a Republican in the White House, and he couldn't get the job done. And I do think it's probably not the best legislation that was put in front of the caucus. So, he's a terrible leader. And, Nancy Pelosi on the other side, don't get me started with her, because I think she is a lousy leader too, and has only led the Democrats to slaughter in elections.
Yep.
But it seems like what's happening, though, it seems like I counted the Democrats out. 860-685-7700. 860-685-7700. The topic is dysfunctional government. But Chris, like 3 months ago, I counted the Democrat. It was a joke. I mean, you can even take it. You could not take that party seriously. But it seems like Trump's, whenever there's a vacuum, something fills the vacuum.
Sure.
And I think Trump's created a vacuum for the Democrats to potentially succeed. What do you think?
I think that's true, but just like the Republicans don't have their act together, and maybe Donald Trump hasn't done the greatest job on this legislative initiative, the Democrats, they don't have their act together either, which is part of the reason why I'm so grumpy today.
But wait a second.
But there is the vacuum. But what are the Democrats going to do? They got no ideas.
That's where they are right now. Yes, absolutely. They have no sound ideas. But 860-685-7700, 685-7700. Would a better strategy be maybe Trump not pushing this again if it does not go through, and literally just say, okay, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. In other words, you like Obamacare so much, all of you Democrats and other people out there. We'll just see how it all plays out, and we'll see how it happens. I tried my best.
Yes.
And that's it. We'll see. You think it's so great and it's such a spectacular thing, then we'll see how it all shakes out. What do you think about that, Marty?
I think that's exactly what will happen, because he didn't want his name attached to anything that's going to be unsuccessful or unpopular. It's going to be Ryan Care. He'll never have anything to do with it, and he'll pull aside and he'll start working on something else, and he'll blame somebody that for its failure. I mean, even though he tried to go to the Hill and convince people to support him, he was unable to do so. So his first attempt of making something beautiful, wonderful, and great didn't work out so good.
Yeah. I think one of the hallmarks of Donald Trump through the campaign was his, because he is an inexperienced politician, but he's a quick study. I want to see in the next legislation if he takes the bull by the horn and says, this is what we're doing. And Republicans, you could get on board or not. Democrats, you could get on board or not. But I don't know if he's going to go back to the well and try and be as deferential to the Republicans in Congress this time around when we get to say tax legislation. You bring up a good point.
Is it really not a Democratic-Republican issue? Could it be that it's establishment versus Trump?
That's the way I see it mostly.
I see it too. Marty, do you see it that way?
It could very well be. And I think if establishment means norms or conduct in which you actually get something done because there is a process.
But you're so hung up on this process.
Yeah, there is a process.
Okay,
called
Marty,
a democratic process.
Yes, okay, I know you love all this, your process. Where has this great process got us over the last 20 years?
I'm not saying that things have always been great.
Yeah, I think you need someone to shake it up and not worry about the process.
Well, the shake-up itself has made us even more vulnerable to lots of other things. I mean, it's one thing to break something. It's another thing to have something to replace it. And obviously, even in this case, he didn't have it. So you can break something, but if you don't have something to replace it with, you're now left with an empty shelf. So his art of the deal obviously didn't work out so great this time.
Do you agree with Marty on Chris on that one?
I think he's assigning more blame than is necessary on Donald Trump. I think this is...
Well, he took all the credit. He wanted all the credit. You know, he was telling everybody before he was elected that he had the power to do that. He was going to make it happen. And
yes.
He's going to make America great. And
right.
We had no idea what he was going to do because he never said anything about that, but it was going to be wonderful, and it didn't work out so great the first time around.
Yes, but he went through the process, and he went through Congress, and he ran into the buzzsaw that is the dysfunctional Congress on both sides of the aisle, especially in the leadership of both parties. Mm-hmm. And he does deserve blame, but I would give the larger share of the blame to the four really, really bad people that are running the Senate and the House on both parties. It's a bipartisan dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And does Donald Trump get some blame? Yeah, but I would assign much more blame to those four lousy leaders than I would Donald Trump.
So Chris first, then Marty, who's your four most despicable people you don't like in our government?
Oh, I would say Pelosi,
In order.
Ryan,
Okay.
Schumer, and McConnell.
Marty?
I'm going to go with Bannon, even though he's not up front. He is in the government.
Okay.
I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with Mitch McConnell.
Why Mitch McConnell?
Because he's a two-faced liar and he's an obstructionist. And then when it's his turn, he can't seem to produce it, so he's a fraud. My former Senator Joe Lieberman, even though he's not somebody that is a member of the formal government, he certainly is a part of the shadow liberal, the shadow government that is more in terms of people who are, the lobbyists.
What don't you like about Lieberman?
Oh my God! What a turncoat when he went after to support the Secretary of Education. Oh my God!
Wow, top four. Lieberman in the top four.
He
All right.
is a scumbag.
I think that's a stretch, but all right. And who's your fourth?
I'm going to go with the former security advisor, Michael Flynn, because when you try to get to a certain level as a military man and you're found out to be a liar and in cahoots with other people that are at odds with our own country, and yet you're being in charge of helping us keep secure, you're a very dangerous person.
Okay. What are your four, Jeff? Do you have four?
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, probably, I would say, close to mentally retarded. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Okay. Chuck Schumer, a abject fraud, a complete fraud. The biggest, he's saying, you can tell he's just, full of it. Let's see. I'd say Bernie Sanders. I just think that he's actually no. I'd say Warren.
Okay.
And then I'll throw in Bernie, just because I think he's become drunk with power and he just says stuff just to keep the shtick going. But
he said less than McCain. I'm surprised McCain's not on your list.
Actually, I'll flip. You're right. I think McCain should be in the top four without a doubt.
Look at that. You changed his mind.
There you go.
B, power of the B.
So, yeah, I think those are the four. So we'll see what happens. I think do you think Trump will start opting out, meaning that just lose interest and say, screw it?
No. I do not think. He is a fighter and he is extremely competitive. He's an alpha male. And I think he will react to this. It'll be really compelling to see how he reacts to this. But, I think he and Ronald Reagan did quite a bit of this in his time. I think he will go over the politicians and go directly to the people. And I think he'll...
Because he lost popular support, though, of the people.
I think he has. Because I think when he's associated with the people in Congress... Those are, they, as bad as you look at the polling, Jeff, and Donald Trump has lost support across the board, including with Republicans through this last couple of weeks. But if you look at the ratings of Congress, there's almost no organization that's rated worse than Congress. So anytime he's associated with Congress, he's going to look bad because they are so awful.
And he's going against his base.
But I think if he goes back and speaks directly to the people, using social media, using rallies, using primetime TV appearances and interviews, he's got to go right to the people and sell what he wants to accomplish right to the people. That'll be much more effective than him partnering with someone like Paul Ryan.
I think he's lost the ability to do that because of what he has already done in that forum of tweeting and going back to the people and being untruthful in regards to the kinds of things that he's promoting. He's now become a caricature of himself, and now he's lost credibility as far as I'm concerned. I think a large number of people, are very cautious about what he does say because it oftentimes is proven to be not correct.
Do you agree with that, Chris?
To a certain extent, you got to take the good with the bad. When he has as much direct access to the people through tweets, where you're getting raw, unfiltered access to the president's thoughts, he says some stupid stuff. He's not very articulate at times. He does strike out sometimes in a knee-jerk fashion. All of that is true. But on balance, I think the people want to hear from their president. And if he leads and he says what he wants to do, enough people will get behind him for him to affect the changes he wants to make.
Well, and again, the question is I believe the health care thing is not going to go his way. doesn't look that way.
I don't think he'll be as hurt by it as the Republicans in Congress will.
He personally won't be, because he'll never take personal accountability for it not working. He'll call it Ryan Care. He won't be calling it whatever the label.
But it was Ryan Care, though,
Well,
Marty.
you know,
I mean, but Marty, listen,
Hey,
you ought to be fair. It wasn't Donald Trump that didn't vote for it.
Then he shouldn't be at the Hill trying to get people to vote for it. If you're going to be the commander-in-chief, one, take ownership of the guy dying. Don't blame it on the generals. And two, if you're going to push for a health care plan and you go to the Hill to start twisting arms for people to vote for it, it's your plan. Sorry, you're the man in charge.
I think that Congress, who voted like 900 times to repeal Obamacare, looks awfully worse, because they voted to repeal Obamacare 900 times when they couldn't really do anything. And when they actually had a chance to do something, they couldn't get their act together. And that predates Donald Trump. And most Americans know the Republicans did that. And they know the Republicans couldn't get their vote together. That's why it's going to fall much more on them and Donald Trump. And I'm not saying Donald Trump looks good, but I don't think he looks nearly as bad as the Republicans in the Congress do.
I would have to agree with that. I think yes, Trump will get some backwash from that. I think the Republicans just look foolish. You had like what 8 years you've been hawking all that we got to repeal, and then it comes the golden opportunity.
You could have been working on an outline for 8 years,
exactly,
and you blew it. So I think the backwash is more towards the Republicans.
Yeah, and Donald Trump can say, "Hey, I wanted this bill. I tried to get them to vote for it. They had said they wanted to repeal Obamacare. We didn't get it done. I take responsibility." And he doesn't look good. But to me, the Republicans just look awful.
He'll never say those words. He'll never take responsibility. That's why he was already calling it Ryan Care, and that's why he was deflecting the death of the SEAL to the generals. He is above it all. He's above it all.
I thought we had a better show than this, Marty, where you're going to just spew some Democratic talking points.
Really got to chill on that.
Well, I'm defending my point of view. You guys can talk about what you want to do, and I'm saying in some ways you are absolutely correct. But the guy does not take any ownership. The guy has accused the former president of wiretapping, and everybody in the government who had any knowledge of these wiretap possibilities, these FISA court orders. They didn't exist, and he will never go back and say it was wrong.
Okay, but this week, Marty, because you apparently only read the liberal media. This week, the head of the Intelligence Committee, Nunes, said that there was evidence
unilaterally, without even sharing it with the Republican members of his committee.
But Marty, a moment ago you said there was nobody, and now you're going to say unilaterally. So I'm showing you somebody, and I'm showing you somebody that's the head of the Intelligence Committee did say that Donald Trump in Trump Tower was surveilled, and some of his private conversations were captured by the intelligence agency. So you said nobody, and now I give you somebody, and then you're going to complain that he did it unilaterally. You don't think there's any chance? He won't even
say where he got the data from. He won't even say who gave him the information. He won't share any of that. He just ran to the White House and shared it, and didn't share it with anybody else. And we don't even know where he got it from. Bannon might have given it to him. Who knows? We don't know. We haven't even vetted where that data came from.
Bannon is the devil. Yes, we'll blame everything on Bannon. So you don't think there's any chance, because we've done shows about the lack of privacy and about the massive amount of surveillance our federal government does. We did that way before Donald Trump ever arrived on the scene. You don't think, Jeff, there's a chance that somebody in the government was eavesdropping in some way?
In my humble opinion, I would say it's about 100% chance that some way, somehow, they were monitoring communications. I mean, and if it was another Republican president, I'm sure some way, somehow, they were at least had access to information.
Right. And remember, the New York Times, Marty, ran an article that said they were surveilling Trump operatives during the election, that they were wiretapping him. So it's not that far-fetched. I don't know.
So
I
why
don't
not
know.
talk
But
about
it's
it
not
in an
the
open forum where you're having a committee where your own people in your own party are saying, I don't know where he's getting that information. I'm not quite sure because he hasn't shared it with us. Why would you have a committee on intelligence, what normally has been a bipartisan, historically, a very bipartisan, because they're very true Americans, where they want to make sure that we're safe, making America great again, and it's one guy who runs up to the White House and shares information, and it's supposedly information that should be shared within
and it's your position,
format.
Marty, that his counterpart on the Democratic side is
Mr. Schiff.
Mr. Schiff, that he's bipartisan and follows
I'm
the
not saying-
process, and he's not partisan. They're all partisan dirtbags.
Well, I'm not saying they're not partisan, but they do have a format in which they follow. Here's the information. This is where we got it from. It's been vetted. We understand that it's real.
Okay.
Okay.
So the Democrats
Look at
play it
Studio
all
A,
correct.
quiet today.
So the Democrats they play by the process, and they're above the fray, and they're not
Nope.
they're not political hacks. Only the Republicans are. And when Schiff does something, it's okay, but when Nunes says something, it's not okay. It's quote unquote unilateral.
Well, you say you're a news junkie. I think you probably missed that one.
I think
because
you ought to be careful.
Everybody has said that.
I think you ought to be careful in saying Donald Trump lied, because I don't think all of the information is out, and it would be a shame if I made you eat your hat in one future episode when Donald Trump is proven to be correct.
I'll bring the salt.
There you go.
So, yes, so it does seem like 860-685-7700, 860-685-7700. It does show that the divide is obvious even in Studio B, that, you know, pennies could fall from heaven and Marty would say, well, it's awful.
Yeah.
And then and then they're probably the same thing. So
not
I think it's not fact based. It's just emotionally driven.
Oh God, yeah.
So I heard this joke where Donald Trump is hosting the Pope at Mar-a-Lago, his resort, and they're by some water, a lake that's on the property, and the Pope's hat flies off and goes into the water, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do and is all flustered. Well, Donald Trump steps to the water, walks across the water, picks up the Pope's hat, brings it back and hands it to him, and then the reporters write the articles with the headline, Donald Trump doesn't know how to swim.
Like that.
What do you got for
You
us,
got a
Jeff?
caller over there, big guy?
Actually, Chris, you'll know that a caller just expressed his love for you and says he's never going to contribute to the station. So, well, so that happened.
I'm sorry, caller. Hopefully we're entertaining you at the least.
There you go. So let's see what our caller has to say. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So what say you?
I just wanted to comment on Chris's diatribe there
Go ahead.
for a minute.
Please.
First of all, the report was that some of those communications may have been incidentally retrieved by the Justice Department in their ongoing exploration of whether there was some collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Okay, it wasn't that Trump himself was targeted for wiretapping. They had reason to believe that members of his election team were working with the Russians to get these guys. You have to go to a court to get permission to try to wiretap people. So there must have been some reason that those individuals were targeted, and the reason is I think it's become clear that there was some collusion between the Trump campaign.
Although I want to ask you, and point's fine, good caller. By the way, the views expressed on the Buzz is not the views of WESU or Wesleyan University.
Right.
Why do you think there was? I'm just curious. Because I really haven't been on top of it as much as I should, to be honest with you, caller. So when do you think the collusion happened, and how deep was it?
I think Flynn was in collusion with the Russians for quite some time. And this was going on, and they had reason to identify him, and he's gone now, because after the fact, they're like, well, we didn't know anything about it.
And what did Flynn do? And I'm just asking. I
Flynn
really
was
don't.
the national security advisor.
I know that, yes, but what did he do with Russia? What exactly did he do?
What was talked about and I don't think all of it's come out yet. But this is a guy who denied having contact with Russians. Trump himself has denied having contact with Russians, and every day you read about his business dealings in Russia.
But you're not answering
every
the question.
day. Every
Okay.
day, there's stories about business dealings he's had with Russians,
All right.
and about and these conversations are substantive conversations that have to do with national security.
So
The guy's been
do you think Russia tipped the election in favor of Donald Trump?
You know what? I think what they did, and I think all governments do this. I mean, they're all trying to influence public opinion.
Yeah, we do the
Our
same thing.
government does it too.
Yeah, sure.
Our government does it too. But a lot of the stuff that you're reading about Hillary Clinton, and I'm no fan of Clinton. I want to go on record. I didn't vote for her.
No,
But
who'd you vote for?
I certainly didn't vote for Trump either. I voted for Jill Stein.
Oh, good.
Because
Okay.
I think in his at the end of his diatribe there, Chris said they're all a bunch of dirtbags, and I wouldn't go so far as to say that they're all a bunch of dirtbags, but the way politics is practiced in this country today has a lot of us very disappointed.
Hasn't it
right now.
de-evolved into not like, in other words, it's not even, they're not even trying to do the people's business. Let's be honest about that. Like, they just take. They take positions because it's politically expedient.
Well, and Trump is his own constituents, the people who believed and supported him, the people in parts of rural America who thought that he was going to bring coal miners' jobs back and he was going to provide insurance for everybody. Every day, this guy is being exposed as a con man.
In
All
what
right,
way?
that's just a fact.
No,
I mean, and there are facts here.
Okay,
You
no,
can
how?
look at what-
I'm not
you can
arguing.
look at all this stuff.
Caller. I'm not arguing. I just wanted
Yeah.
you to tell me. I'm not really arguing with you. So, how is he being exposed as a con man?
Well, take a look at the Trump care. It funnels money to the super wealthy, and it denies health benefits to people who need it most.
Okay.
He wants to take away funding for maternity benefits. He wants to take away money for mental health benefits. The list goes on and on and on. And he's not going to. He can't deliver on his promises to bring the coal industry back. It's not going to happen. Natural gas is just more efficient and cheaper.
Well, let me ask you a question about natural gas because that's something that I'm very interested.
I don't pretend to be an expert on any of this stuff, but if you read the papers, and I don't care. I'm not just talking about the Washington Post and the New York Times. I mean, his own people in his own party are running from this guy now because they know he can't deliver on his promises,
All right.
and they know his constituents are getting screwed.
All right.
I mean,
Well,
to
fair
put it
enough.
bluntly.
I thank you for the call.
All right.
Good
thank you.
conversation. Thank you. So, so it seems to me, Chris and Marty, that I think that there is 860-685-7700, 860-685-7700. Talking about Trump, talking about dysfunctional government, talking about a caller's love affair with Chris. But it does seem, I kind of just listen to people and kind of putting my finger in the wind. Seems like Trump has to have a victory soon.
Yes.
Because, let's face it, Washington's all about power
Yes.
and little to do with the governance of the country. So they'll feed on him like a vulture, won't they?
Oh God, yeah. I
Yeah.
can imagine what the little talking heads are going at right now.
he needs
all
a
that
win.
breaking news. Oh my God. Yep.
He needs a win. He needs the win badly.
Yeah.
And he better find one in a hurry.
Yeah, and to reiterate what the caller was saying, it's not just the liberal press that's looking at that. It's, even the Wall Street Journal, as a conservative voice online has had a harsh rebuke for Trump for calling it, quote, his own worst political enemy and asserting that he was damaging his presidency.
There you go.
Even the Republican Party operatives are saying, hey,
Although the
chill
Wall
out.
Street Journal
Chill
is a
out.
globalist paper anyway. So
Yeah,
it's-
they were never a fan of Donald Trump.
Although, yes.
We'll have to call the Des Moines Register and see what they think.
So anyway, caller, what are you there? What say you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So this is what I think happened. I think Trump saw an opportunity here. He saw people were upset. He was upset himself, disgusted with the way things were. And he ran, and I don't think he ever really thought that he would actually get in.
Oh, no, that I agree with you. 1,000. No, hold on. 1,000%. We're not commenting if he's will be a good president or won't be a good president. I think he went down that escalator, and I think that even the people he had Manafort, they were like B- players. I did not think he actually thought he was going to win until maybe 3 months into the campaign. You agree with that, obviously, right?
Yeah, yes, and I think his ego is so big that he couldn't step down, he couldn't back down, he just had to go with it, and he's just flying by the seat of his pants now, seeing what he can do. And honestly, I think.
Do you think he's going to lose interest? You think he's going to? You think he's going to lose interest and just say, just become kind of okay? Tried it, got the presidency, and I'm done.
Yep.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that.
Probably a reason why they put Pence as the vice president, because there's a possibility they need someone to actually run the government. So
no, you know what? He's inexperienced and he has had a rough couple of weeks, but I wouldn't count him out just yet. And maybe it'll be different a few months down the line because he's in trouble now. Mm-hmm. But
first of all, it's like Mark Twain said. Rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated.
Yeah.
I mean, Marty, don't get too happy too soon. He's been president for like 2 months, so I wouldn't, put the fork in it yet. I know you want to, but I would chill for a little bit.
Yep. Still wrapping it up in foil before I stick it in the oven.
Because, so I wouldn't do it quite yet. And we'll see how it all plays out. But it is interesting. I'm a little surprised that even though he is inexperienced, I think it's actually, to be honest with you, I don't think it has a lot to do with him, but I think it's really the Washington power base rebelling.
Yeah.
And I think it's not a Democratic or Republican issue. I think it's an issue of the entrenched, and he represents a grave threat.
I think that's a huge part of the undertow of the stories that we're dealing with now. Absolutely.
And what about filling the positions for the government that actually to operate it? Because there's so many hundreds and hundreds of positions that are not filled at this point for some of these organizations to actually operate. True. I know that he's trying to dismantle many of them.
But let's talk about the issue in terms of the entrenched fighting someone that's a threat. Do you agree that there's any, or do you believe
I'm sure there's a lot of pushback.
Okay,
absolutely.
Yep,
absolutely.
And some of that may be coming from our intelligence agencies.
Oh, I believe that 100%.
And
leak here, leak there.
It's funny in listening to caller. And actually, I thought that caller was going to hammer me much worse than he did. I actually think I got off pretty easy,
yes,
and he even almost agreed with me on something. So I feel very lucky. But what I wanted to say is, for a long time, Democrats were very suspicious of this huge intelligence apparatus that was built under the Patriot Act and George W. Bush. And it's just amazing how things change. Now they're embracing that surveillance apparatus.
Because it's all about, like we were talking about, it's not about governance. Yeah. It's about the power of Washington. You think, all of a sudden they're like Schumer voted for the wall in like 2008.
Yes.
Okay, now
as did Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it's an outrage. You build bridges, not walls. You telling me your view changed in 8 years? That what happened in 8 years to make it one time something that was a good idea and now it's not? It's all about the power base, all about the demographics. Yeah, so it's all what's expedient on both sides.
Both sides.
Both sides. And that's why people are disenchanted. But I think this is the last hurrah. I believe if Trump fails, it's not going to be good.
And it's not always just about security with missiles and security with weaponry. It's also security on, let's say, internet security, where they've just deregulated to the point where companies can now sell your private information off the internet without your permission, where they had pulled that back with some regulation. With the major deregulations that are taking place, you're becoming a little less safe on the internet, where we thought maybe we were going in the correct direction. We're now finding ourselves being sold out in that regard, the dismantling, of internet protections, and they voted to overturn the privacy rules, and so that means that they can continue to track what you're doing and share your browsing and app activities without your permission. And I think that that's wrong, especially in a democratic society. I hold true to my democratic. I don't say Democrat, Republican.
You mean
America.
Right.
Well, sharing of information, that's new. There you go. Anyway, so we have a caller. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm a Trump supporter.
Well, hey, how do you survive in Are you in Middletown?
No, I'm actually in Connecticut, but my town's one of the few Connecticut towns that actually doesn't vote liberal or Democrat.
So what do you think of Marty's just obvious hatred towards Trump? What do you think it's founded on?
I think they're just like trying to push him out way too quick. He's been in office 8 weeks. Let's face it. The reason he got in is because it's because establishment politicians haven't done anything for us, at least for the last 10 years.
Oh, I see. That's where you and I absolutely agree. I think it's more like 30.
That's why he got in. That's why he got in.
Of course. And I think it is hysterical. The guy's been in for, I don't know how it's going to play out. He could be an abject failure. Who knows, right? But he's been in 8 weeks, and all of a sudden it's over. It's over.
How did he not do anything about the Russian excursion into Ukraine?
Yeah,
He's been there 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
It happened 6 years ago. Longer than
He
that.
barely got his cabinet together, and it's, oh my God. I actually think he's gone too fast. I think he probably should have chilled a little bit on health care because I agree with Chris, he should not have abdicated to Ryan. What do you think of that, caller?
As a whole, generally speaking, I think getting back to Trump, if acting...
I can't hear.
You're breaking up, my friend.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yes, go ahead. What's up?
I'm sorry. If acting presidential is being like the last 10, 12 years, then I don't want somebody that acts presidential. That's number one. Number two is...
wait, elaborate on the last... What do you mean the last 8 to 12 years? What do you mean by that?
Nothing hardly has happened positive for this country in the last...
Oh, no, we've been on a huge losing streak, let's face it, correct?
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if acting presidential is being like the last 8 to 10 years, then I don't want somebody to act presidential. And...
Sorry, we're going to have to let you go. You're a good caller, but you're fading fast.
No, that was obviously our intelligence apparatus because he came as the cavalry for me.
That's right.
And then they interfered with that call, and we lost him because that was a good conversation.
It was a good conversation, but it was interfered with.
That was me.
Oh, yeah,
Marty's going to take his blood pressure medication soon. Yep.
I'm going to need to, we're going to need a sandbag divider between Marty and I next week.
It's getting
We're going to
there.
bunker Studio B.
Yep. So I think it was interesting. It started out a little slow, but I thought the conversation heated up and it was quite good. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see how it all plays out. I think the weekend's not going to be really that bad weather-wise.
Yeah, it should be wonderful.
Be okay. And we'll see how it all plays out.
Yep.
Let's look at, we do have a caller. Yep. So let's see what's going on there.
Well, I kind of hope that it's nice because I think a lot of people actually need to get out and get some fresh air.
Oh, my goodness.
You know what? I think a lot of our angst is that we're sitting there and we're listening and we don't have any way to kind of burn off some of that anxiety.
I agree. We're ready for spring.
You got it.
To spring.
So let's see. A previous caller is calling in just for one quick point. What is that?
Yeah, the point is that you have to remember Trump is not your everyday politician. He's a businessman. He's a corporate type guy. He's going to run this country like a corporation, like a business. So he's multitasking right now. He's getting a lot of things done in one fell swoop, and people don't like that.
Okay, what happens if health care goes down? Is it a big problem for Trump?
Well, no, what's going to happen is health care is not going to, Trump care is not going to happen. What's going to happen is we're going to have Obamacare, but Trump's going to, as a businessman and as a smart one at that, is going to agree to Obamacare, and he's going to take away probably a bunch of stuff and make it that much better because he's going to prove to the country that he is about everybody, even the people that don't like him. He's about, and he's going to get things done a lot at one time. He's only been in office 2 months.
Do you think he'll get more done than Obama? I just wanted to make you laugh. Thanks for the call. Take care. So let's do close out with the buzzwords, Marty.
Okay. The National Institute of Health.
I have no idea what it does. We have all these government agencies, and I don't really know exactly what it does. It sounds like a noble endeavor, though.
Yep. They do a lot of research on cancer, and this is where a lot of our breakthrough medicines are found through research, and funding will be cut towards them. I like this word, something I came about. Intellectual impoverishment. Are we suffering from that?
Yes.
Okay.
Not on this show.
No, absolutely not. Strategic patience.
That's one of those fancy Ivy League
exactly.
think tank
words. Yeah, you start dumbing this down, Marty.
That was your boy
Tillerson. Final round of
Tillerson.
Yes.
Right
final
there.
round of Jeopardy.
How about Chuck Berry?
Chuck Barris.
Chuck Berry, our guitar player that just died the other day. What do you think about him?
I thought it was Chuck Barris who died.
No.
He died
Chuck
too, though.
Barris
Chuck
died, yeah.
Barris
Chuck
was
Barris.
the Gong Show guy,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
no.
both
I
they
didn't know
both
that.
passed away.
I didn't know Chuck Barris. He was one of the all-time greats.
Number 6 all-time rock and rollers, according to Rolling Stone. Incidental collection is something that was brought up earlier, but you know what? If you're in the sweep, you're going to get pushed up by the broom. What do you
And
think?
we're not going to get pushed out quite yet. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Business Buzz. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman. We'll be back next week with another exciting show. Thanks for listening.